In a typical church, discussions about heavier matters might be the subject for a session in the pastor's study. This is true even in the catacomb chapel of St. Uriel, no matter how different our ministries might be from your typical parish. And let's see what we might find in a very different pastor's study.
Merry meet and blessed be. I'm Iden Onsen, High Priest of the Temple of Gaia, if you came that way. Or if you came from the other direction, I'm Bishop Cal Lippitt of the Universal Episcopal Church and the Universal Gnostic Fellowship. The last few times on the Secrets in Plain Sight, I've been talking about bullying and hate and trolls and that sort of stuff that a lot of us have to endure. I've been speaking a lot about that because there's a lot of that going on. As a matter of fact, I think the problem has actually been growing. We've all known about bullying and hate, and a lot of us have experienced it. But some don't feel the problem as much if they haven't been the victims as much. Or if the victim hasn't been somebody that they care about. Well, it's time that we learn to care about everybody. And especially this situation. This is one of those situations, as I've said about other problems, if it can happen to one, it can happen to anyone. Saturday, the 20th of February, 2016, is Tempest Smith Day. Tempest Kane Smith was born on September 16th, 1988. She would have been a fairly mature woman by now. You do the math and you tell me. After all. But I'll clue you right now, she would have been pushing 30. Pretty close to it. And she loved reading, played the flute, I'm told, quite well, and wrote some rather terrific poetry. It's easy, in retrospect, to imagine what somebody like that will grow into being. To go on to college, maybe even graduate work, and see just what could be. Well, she won't. She didn't get to. She died February 20th, 2001, by her own hand. She was 12 years old when her mother found and read her diary. It was apparent that she took her own life because of years of being tormented and bullied in school. She was shy. She had a definite preference for wearing black clothes. She was interested in Wicca and was studying it in earnest. Each one of those served as a pretext for bullying, and it never stopped. People would come up to her and ask obscene questions about what she'd been doing. Crowds of her classmates would sing "Jesus Loves You" and various other Christian songs to taunt her. few things we adults need to be reminded of. One is the basic fact that at that age, especially that age, time goes at a crawl. I can remember when I was 12 years old that if it was morning and somebody talked about something that was going to happen this afternoon, it would seem an eternity away. And also, people at that age tend to be very private. There might be one or two very close, trusted friends, but how much do they share with them even? A lot of things they keep to themselves. They may have been taught to keep things to themselves. Certainly, they know that anything that doesn't match with their peers, they keep to themselves. They know that. So who do you share with? It's unlikely. As a matter of fact, don't expect it. That they're going to go right away to a parent or a teacher or a school counselor. And trust them just because of who they think they are. Yeah, I'm a school counselor, therefore trust me, trust me, trust me. No. It doesn't quite work that way, not always. Not often. And eventually, the rope they're hanging on to wears thin and breaks. Unless some help is there or they've got a plan. I had a plan. Yeah, I was one of those kids that got picked on in school, and I had a plan. And I saw that plan through. And it worked. Oh, did it work. Now, I had to figure out a few other things to do beyond that once that plan was fulfilled. But I had the plan, and it saw me through. I don't know that that plan would have worked for her. At any rate, she didn't have anything like that. The response by the team on the ambulance, the EMTs, the emergency room, the doctors, the helicopter flight crew, exemplary. Sure can't fault that. But it wasn't enough to save her. From the time I first read about Tempest, initially as high priest of the Temple of Gaia, and then as a Gnostic priest and a Gnostic bishop and a presiding bishop, I've been pushing to have February 20th be Tempest Smith Day, where I have authority. It is. I'd sure like it to be more recognized. And to have her revered as not only as a martyr, but as a patron of victims of bullying. Now, please don't think that this is something that's just happening among children and teenagers and young adults in various kinds of schools. No. Unless, as a matter of fact, yeah, unless you live under a rock, you know better. If you're watching me, you've probably experienced the so-called trolls on the internet. They sure are a pain to me. These are people who harass you because they don't like you or something that you happen to say or an opinion that you have. I had to cancel my plans to attend my 50-year high school reunion because of a classmate who was so obsessive about harassing me that I had to block him on Facebook. Why? Because he didn't like the fact that I was agreeing with something that President Obama was doing. Now, you figure, how old is somebody usually when they graduate from high school, if they make the normal progression without interruptions? I was 17. Add 50 years to that. And he's about the same age as me. So you figure out how old he and I are. And so, yeah. It isn't just kids. No. No, it's not just kids. And you'd think by the time somebody would get to be the age that he and I are, we would think that we might be able to put bullying behind ourselves. And trolls are bullies. It's that simple. Then again, how can we expect our own peers to behave like adults when those who are or are trying to become our elected leaders can't seem to do that? I just listened to an audio of one of the individuals who's running for president, referring to President Obama with the N-word. And then there's an incident that didn't quite make the mainstream news media about a mother who found her daughter packing a suitcase. When she asked her daughter why, her daughter explained that she heard that a certain presidential candidate said that he would have soldiers come around and round them up and take them away. Why? Well, the mother and daughter are both Muslim, both born in the U.S., but Muslim. Please don't think that this is limited to presidential candidates. Look in your own state and see. In one state, a particular group is pushing legislation that would make a crime legal if it was done for the sake of religion. And I think you know which religion we're talking about. If the crime is done in the name of one particular individual, and you know what? Most of the crimes committed in his name, he wouldn't have approved of, would he? Not somebody who spent his time mostly among social outcasts, or at least a heck of a lot of it. So, you know what? This needs to stop. And we've got to think of some ways to stop it. Blessed be. This has been a presentation of the Wise Ones Net. Merry part and blessed be.